Hello and welcome back to the Sofa Sports News football show, brought to you by the FNX network and being broadcast live on London Greek community radio station, Greek Beat Radio. On tonight's panel, we have sofasportsnews.com's very own Simon Alavi, and he's on mute.
Hello. Do you know what? You always go to Dan first because of alphabetical order or something, so
Yeah,
I wasn't ready.
Yeah, but you complained last time, so
Sorry.
I thought I'd do you a favour.
Sorry, mate.
We're also joined by Daniel DeLuca, one of our very own. How's it going, Dan?
Harry, emotional turmoil this week. Emotional turmoil.
And I'd like to welcome back Andy Wilson of The Express and the Daily Star. Andy, how's it going?
Yeah, not too bad. It's nice to be back on. I know we've been meaning to do it for some time, but finally the schedules have synced up. So
that's right. It has been a while, but we're glad to have you back, Andy. Just for our listeners' information, we are recording via Google Hangouts. So I'd like to apologise to our listeners in advance for any sound issues that may occur. As always, I endeavour to edit the show as best as I can, unless I can't be bothered, and then I'll just leave it. Despite the absence of Premier League action this past weekend, we still have plenty to discuss. And we're going to begin with the World Cup qualifiers. The big news to come out of the European section was the elimination of DeLuca's beloved Italy. The Azzurri will not be at the World Cup finals for the first time since 1958. Jakob Johansson's deflected strike in the first leg proved to be the difference as Italy were held to a draw in Milan on Monday. Guys, it's been announced sort of late this afternoon, this evening, that Gianpiero Ventura was actually sacked. He's gone, he's out the door, and we understand that Carlo Ancelotti has been appointed. But before we delve into this one in detail, I just want to ask Dan, are you feeling any better, mate?
No, I'm feeling worse, actually. I'm feeling worse with every passing minute as the realisation of what has happened to Italian football and how I'm going to spend my summer is just continuing to sink in. It's just an absolutely devastating situation for me, Italian fans, people of Italian heritage, and I'm sure a lot of the players and affiliates of the FA. But it's an absolute mess.
I must admit, when I saw that photo of you lying on the floor in your Italy shirt, part of me felt sorry for you.
My wife took that picture without me knowing. That was my full time. I spent the last 40 minutes of the game just sat in front of the television and the whistle blew. The hand went on the head, the body sank to the floor, and there was a flash in the background, which Mrs. DeLuca was going to use as goading material for the future. But
I mean, I'm struggling to have a bit of sympathy, Dan, because you have seen your national side win the World Cup. I'm never going to see Iran win the World Cup. Harry's never going to see Cyprus win the World Cup. Andy's never going to see, no disrespect, mate, but you probably won't see Ireland win the World Cup. We've got listeners, you know, your wife's, DeLuca, your wife's never going to see Wales win the World Cup, you know. Lawless, the Rob Palmer, he's never going to see his Scotland win the World Cup. You know, we've got so many. They're not going to... So I'm struggling to feel sorry for you, if I'm honest. You've seen the greatest thing your country can ever achieve in sport.
Fair point, I suppose. Dan, is Italy's failure a consequence of the way in which the Italian Football Federation has gone about things in recent years?
It is. And to be honest, you're going to have to shut me up at points because I could do 2 or 3 entire pods just on this subject with the ingrained depth of the Italian failure. But yet it is a result of the FA, but it's a result of the mentality of Italian football. And it's a mentality that we've benefited from over the years. And where do I start? Look, ultimately, historically, Italian football has been built on solid defence with a myth that we can't attack, but actually we can. And we pick and choose when to go forward. And generally speaking, Italy have been one of the 3 or 4 best teams at every World Cup up till about 2014. Right, but there's a mentality in Italian football that it's all going to be all right in the end and it's never too late and things work themselves out. And over the last decade, that's been starting to wear thin. Other teams can defend now. In fact, defending is probably the easiest thing to do when you've got a lead or something to hang on to. Like you can organise. We saw Iceland eliminate England once they had a lead to hold on to. The rubbish teams in international football don't exist anymore. Everyone can get themselves together. Greece won a European Championship just based on defensive solidity. So the game has moved on, is what I'm saying, and Italy haven't really moved with it. Since winning the World Cup in 2006, we've only won one game at a World Cup. That was against England in 2014. In that time, we've drawn with New Zealand, Paraguay, lost to Costa Rica. And each time we've gone into the third game where actually the destiny was still in our own hands. Against Slovakia in 2010, we've gone 2-0 down, pulled it back to 2-1, gone 3-1 down, and then in the last 4 minutes could have scored 11 goals, but only managed one, and we were out. Against Uruguay in 2014, it was the most comfortable game I've ever seen, and then suddenly there's a red card, Suarez bites someone, everyone switches off for a minute, and we're out. And it's like there's been warnings there that actually playing in this way is now outdated, and we need to do more. And you saw that in the European Championships of 2012 and 2016 when we surprised the world with poor sides. But ultimately, that mentality of hanging on is still there. And I'll kind of finish this ramble now, but back to the point about the FA. The people who own it, run it, are the same Italian dinosaurs that have been there for years. They've appointed a manager that wasn't fit for purpose. They've made wrong decisions in the build-up. Today, obviously, Ventura's eventually been sacked. Of course he was going to be sacked. He's not going to be able to show his face at a football stadium for some time, I imagine. And now they're talking about replacing Ancelotti. Well, Ancelotti was there last week. He was sitting there. He watched a game on TV like me. He probably had his wife take a picture of him at the end. I don't know, but he was there. The warning signs by Italian FA have not been realised. The situation with the Rossi, I don't know if there's a question further down the line about that, or we can do it now. Well, you've got.
Wasn't he pointing to someone else?
We'll touch on that. Okay. We'll touch on that.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll save that for a little while. But I guess the point is the mentality of Italian football has not changed as the game has changed. Chiellini in the papers yesterday referred to something called Guardiolism, where he's basically saying Guardiola's tactics have eliminated the art of defending. Well, maybe so, but that's his job as an attacking coach to nullify defending. The point is, Italy dismantled Spain 2 years ago at the last European Championship. They dismantled Germany 6 years ago at the European Championship. There are ways of finding the balance between the way you've played historically and the modern world. And Italy abandoned that for this qualifying campaign, and they've had the most brutal ultimate reality check.
Okay. Andy, Gianpiero Ventura, is he solely to blame in your opinion?
Yeah, I think he has to take responsibility for it because, like Dan said, the tactics he employed just weren't fit for purpose. I think touching as well on what Dan said is like it's clear that Italy has been in decline over the last number of years, and it probably when the World Cup qualification groups were drawn, and when you've seen Spain in there, you're probably thinking, right, realistically, we're going to have to go for a playoff place, and that turned out to be the case. So it's a shame they're not going to be they've been ever present at the World Cup, like you said, since 1958. So they'll be sorely missed. Probably good news for England, maybe, that they won't come up against an Italian side again. But I think, he's going to have to take responsibility for that because, and like you said, we're going to be touching on De Rossi in a moment, but I think that maybe is an indication that the players didn't really buy into what he was trying to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the formation, the formations and the personnel that Ventura was going with. And if you just look at the side that played against Sweden the other night, it was Buffon in goal, Barzagli, Bonucci, Chiellini, Florenzi, Candreva, Jorginho, Parolo, Darmian. The one that sticks out for me is Gabbiadini up front. I mean, you've got Lorenzo Insigne sitting on the bench, who's been outstanding for Napoli. Even El Shaarawy at Roma has been irresistible lately. Simone Zaza, who's the second top goal scorer in La Liga at the moment, second only to Leo Messi, doesn't get a look in. Alavi, I understand that, you know, in their qualifier away to Spain, that they went with some sort of 4-2-4 formation.
Yeah, they went 4-2-4. And what you say about Insigne is an interesting point, because 4-2-4 means, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but for Italy it means you can play him in that nice out wide position where he can come in. The problem with what he did, which was 3-5-2, means you can play him, but you can't play him and another sort of good striker. You can't use him in that wing capacity that I think personally suits him best. So it's a classic case of Conte used 3-5-2 because it worked for him and he knows how to do it. Now, when they did it against Spain, it didn't work, right? Admittedly, it didn't work. But a good manager doesn't let that deter you. That you still work with your players. You don't just pick the formation you want and then expect your players to be able to fit into it. And I guess the only other point on that is when you've touched about, and I know you watch a lot of Serie A, Harry, is if you can't get a formation going, the second best thing, in my opinion, to do is to at least get a group of players that play together at club football as much as possible and have that as a spine of your team. And he had the chance to do that in the first game with, don't Insigne and Jorginho play together at Napoli, right? So, you know, at least take advantage of those small links from midfield to up front going forward where you can. I don't know what you thought of the formation, Dan, but I would have gone 4-2-4 for the second leg, or whatever variation for 4-1-3-2, whatever it might be. But
just before Dan comes in, just on the point of Lorenzo Insigne, I read a very interesting quote today from Paolo Bandini of The Guardian, who says, "Nobody who has followed Ventura's career could even be all that surprised. It's not that he underrates Insigne so much as that the manager is extraordinarily rigid in his selection process, a man fixated on square pegs and square holes. Insigne is a wide forward and Italy were lined up at 3-5-2, therefore there was no space available." Does that say it all about Ventura's sort of mentality in terms of the fact that he won't adapt to fit players in? It's the system, and if you don't fit, you just don't fit.
Is that Dan, right?
That is dinosaur management. Okay, and some modern managers do that as well, in fairness, but that is dinosaur management. And Conte will do the same. It's a lot easier at club level where, you know, a player's useless or something doesn't work, you go and order another one with your £1 billion checkbook. International football, you're stuck with what you're stuck with. And it's quite well documented that the dearth of talent available to Italy is nowhere near what it was 10, 20 years ago. I mean, like 20 years ago, Roberto Baggio at home for a major tournament. Like they've left Inzaghi at home, they've left Enrico Chiesa at home, Mancini. Like the list goes on and on and on. These players aren't produced anymore, so you need to work with the players you've got. And a good manager, I believe, an international manager would find a system to suit. Part of the mentality issue as well, which I didn't touch on before, is obviously the world rankings are important. They're important. They're a farce, the world rankings, but they determine what pot you go in. At the time the draw was made for the qualifiers, Italy were drawn behind Portugal, who hadn't won the Euros yet, Romania, Wales, and England, which in my opinion is an absolute disgrace based on the facts available at that time. An absolute disgrace. But the world rankings dictate that.
Dan, there are ways to manipulate the world rankings, though.
Exactly, and this is the mentality. This is the Italian...
Not by the country itself should be manipulating it, and that's what England mess up, because they keep wanting to play friendlies against Brazil and Germany. They should just be smashing 6-7 teams away to get a higher ranking and win 5-0.
Italy's mentality is, well, it's a friendly, it doesn't matter, and they'll happily draw a friendly 1-1, no one cares. But actually, they're the things that cost us. So, which brings me to my point. Ventura is a scapegoat, and rightly so. He lost the dressing room, he lost the players, he lost all idea, to the point where if he won yesterday, Monday, he would have been sacked anyway. So why not just sack him before Monday and give yourself half a chance and not have a substitute tell you how to do your job?
Yeah.
embarrassment. But that's the sort of thing that's happened. So if you take it on face value, what has Ventura done wrong, really? Okay, so apart from being clinically useless, we've touched on that. But when you bring it back to the facts of the matter, we're in a group with Spain. Every other top team in Europe, with the exception possibly of Germany, would finish second in that group, right? So his career comes down to 4 days, a playoff, and I did tell you before the draw was the only team I didn't want was Sweden, straight out the hat. So they're the only team that I felt could trouble Italy. Obviously, Croatia were in pot one. Otherwise, I wouldn't have wanted to play Croatia. Any of the other 6, I think Italy would be in the World Cup.
Yeah, fair point.
But yeah, obviously, his career comes down to those 4 days. He's completely mismanaged them. They didn't contemplate losing in Gothenburg. They lost. Then the panic set in. The realisation that actually it might not be all right in the end. And once teams have got a lead to defend, it becomes easy to defend. Like once it gets to that 70-minute mark, the 10 men go behind the ball. They've got an average height of about 6'8". You're crossing balls into the box, they're getting cleared away. And that was it. Just like that, it was all over. And Ventura has to take the blame for losing the dressing room and mismanaging the biggest game in the last 2 decades last decade and a half of Italian football.
Okay, Andy, we touched on the De Rossi incident briefly. Just for those of you that didn't see it, it's alleged that when asked to warm up, De Rossi made the point to his manager that in fact Lorenzo Insigne would be a better option, seeing as they were in desperate need of a goal. Insigne's been outstanding this season, as we've already said, and so what valid reason did Ventura have to overlook him? There's been rumours of a dressing room falling out, that players after the first leg went into Ventura and told him they were unhappy with the way things were being done. What do you make of that whole situation? Is that just a sign of what's gone on there in the last few days?
Well, it is a bit of a mess, isn't it? I think it clearly means that the players obviously didn't buy in to his philosophy if they're questioning his decisions. I think De Rossi is a senior player, so he should be able to challenge. I think he should be able to maybe say to his manager, "Look, maybe you're better off. Why are you not throwing on a guy who could win you or get you a goal here? There's a clear goal scorer sitting on the bench. There's a chance if you throw him on, something will happen." So I think he has every right maybe to question that. But this notion maybe that I think Ventura, for all the grief we're giving him at the moment, I'm sure ultimately he wanted to win. He wanted Italy to go to the World Cup, but it's not like he would. I'd like to think he'd put his differences with players aside in order to win the game. I'd like to think that would be the case. I wouldn't like to think that he's thinking, no, I don't like this player, so we're not going to put him in and things like that. So I don't know about that speculation, but I think there was a clear case for Insigne to be on the pitch, especially after the first leg. But yeah, so why it didn't happen is beyond me at the moment. Yeah,
fair enough. Danny, I know you're itching to jump in. Just last bit on Italy before we move on. Go on.
Obviously, I'm clearly emotionally unstable about this, which is why I'm talking a lot. I'm not even ranting because but when you think about what Daniele De Rossi has done there, it is a measure of the human being that deep down he knows Italy are going out. He knows that. That is the last time he's going to represent his country because he's retired after the game, and he sits back and says, "I'm not going on for the last 20 minutes, boss. My international career is over here. But please, whatever you do, make the right decision for the country." Ventura did that incorrectly over the 4 days, the team selection in Sweden. And he's not the only one. Ventura is known for picking his favourites. Belotti, who's basically the only reason Ventura's got a job. Let's be clear to people listening who don't know Ventura's history. This is the equivalent of England appointing Neil Warnock. That is what you're dealing with. One of the 3 most powerful footballing nations in international football, past, present, and possibly future, and they appoint the equivalent of Neil Warnock. So in Sweden, at 63 minutes, Belotti was withdrawn. He had touched the football 5 times. 5 touches of a football. At half-time, he touched the ball 3 times. He should not be subbed off. At half-time, you know when you're a kid playing football and you're having a bad game and you hope the manager doesn't notice, so you get to finish the game. He should walk into that dressing room and say, "Do you know what, boss? This is a big game. This ain't for me. I've touched the ball 3 times." He should be walking off the pitch and someone else should be thrown on. The whole mentality of certain players in that situation was not professional. It's like they didn't appreciate the seriousness of the situation they were in. Insigne, he should have been playing. I think, like Alavi says, the formation was rigid. He'd already got it in his head that he wasn't the best fit. An element of being stubborn and not wanting to give in and prove himself. I'm going to win this my way. I'm not going to get sacked between now and the World Cup. And this whole issue is going to go away. It's just a horrible mess. Daniele De Rossi, absolutely the right thing to do. His exact words were, I won't use a swear word, "Why are you bringing me on, boss? We don't need to draw here. We need to win." If you need to tell an international football manager that with 20 minutes left of a playoff you're going out of, then I have no more words.
Apparently, it wasn't actually at Insigne. I mean,
well,
Andy might know best,
De
but
Rossi
apparently, but apparently it was towards a striker.
Yeah, De Rossi said that, but we don't know for sure. I can see Alavi's drinking. Is that limoncello there?
That's it. Just for Dan, mate. Had the limoncello. It stayed in the cup longer than Dan's Italy did. So yeah.
Guys, look, all the talk has been about Italy, but does Sweden not deserve some credit for their performance? Is there an argument, Andy, perhaps that they're a better side without Zlatan? Are they more of a unit without him?
Well, they're certainly a different side, but they had to be. I think you can't ignore the fact when Zlatan Ibrahimovic was available, you had to put him in your team, didn't you? So they had to find a way to fit him in. So I think they've got a bit more freedom and they can experiment a bit more with their system, and they've done that. And I think they took advantage of. Well, I think they used their freedom to, take advantage of Italy's stubbornness. I think with their system, and it seemed to work. But we're hearing little rumors that Ibrahimovic may come back out of retirement, which would be it'd be such a Zlatan thing to do, wouldn't it? For him just to, I'm coming back, I'll be back. But I think they'll probably stick with their current format now, and it's worked really well for them. So I think they do deserve to be there.
You want the best players at the World Cup, don't you? Because, at the moment, there's more and more.
But does a player who's played absolutely no part in their qualification campaign deserve the opportunity to go ahead of someone who's been there right the way through? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you play your best play. You still play your best players. You could have been with the most loyal woman of all time, but then the woman of your dreams turns up. Still, she's the one you go with,
But the thing is, like Ibrahimovic, he's obviously due back soon from injury, so it's likely we'll see him in January for United again. So let's say he scores between then and the end of the season, he scores 15 goals, and he says, "I want to, I want to rescindicate my international retirement." Do you take him at that point?
Do you say no to him? Like, I wouldn't want to say no to someone who's a black belt in most martial arts.
It remains to be seen what's going to happen with that situation, so we'll keep a close eye on that. And the Northern Ireland's hopes of making the World Cup finals for the first time
never a penalty
in over 30 years.
God.
Alavi, will you stop interrupting me? So,
pause on mute. Sorry.
Their hopes of making the World Cup for the first time in over 30 years ended in controversial fashion, shall we say. Ricardo Rodriguez's penalty in Belfast proved to be the difference. But it was never a penalty, was it? I mean, Andy, to lose in that fashion must be a real sickener.
Yeah, it's okay, fair enough. It was a horrible decision. It never should have been. But I think overall, Switzerland, they battered us in that first leg. So they did. They really did. And even in the second leg, although Northern Ireland did play their hearts out and it was brilliant, I think it was... if I'm saying his name right, Severovic. Yeah. He had, I think, 3 real clear-cut chances to score for Switzerland in the second leg, and Michael McGovern pulled off some brilliant saves as well. So take nothing away from their attitude, and it is devastating that we haven't gone through. But I think in terms of, Switzerland, as much as it pains me to admit it, and I know a lot of my friends and stuff wouldn't say this, but I think Switzerland probably do deserve to be there, despite the controversial decision. that's they probably do deserve to be there overall.
They did win 9 out of their 10 qualifiers as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing is we obviously got Germany in our group, so much like Italy, playoff place was always what we had to go for, really. And to put up some of the performances we did against the likes of Norway and the Czech Republic, to come second in that group was a massive achievement for us. So no, Michael O'Neill and the players can be extremely proud of that, because that no one would have expected them to be in the playoffs, I think, when they seen the groups drawn. So yeah, massive achievement.
Yeah.
Nonetheless.
Before I'd even seen the penalty incident that we're talking about, DeLuca actually sent me a text saying something to the effect of, someone who's an advocate of technology like yourself will be jumping all over that incident. I mean, surely this is one of those cases where even those against it cannot deny it would have been useful in this situation. I mean, there's too much at stake nowadays. La Liga have announced that they'll be introducing it next season. Surely it's only a matter of time before the Premier League and the other big leagues follow suit. Well, the Premier League are the last one now, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I think, Andy, you're taking it quite well. I don't know how you're like that. It was just nowhere near a penalty, and the fact that Johnny Evans went sort of so close as well at the end.
Oh no, yeah, that nearly broke me.
I guess what I was going to ask you about the manager, because he's. I mean, you touched upon the players who are going to be missing from the World Cup, but I mean, he's a manager that you could argue is pound for pound at the moment in terms of the squad he's worked with, one of the best managers, and surely he's going to be off soon, right? He's Sunderland or
yeah. Well, I think any money he gets from, whether it is a top championship side or like a lower end Premier League side, will be way beyond what the Irish FA would pay him. So I think the money would be too good to turn down. But like you say, he's gone toe to toe with the likes of in the last few years with the likes of Portugal and Germany. So he's tested himself against the best in the world, and I think he's been there 6 years now, and he took Northern Ireland from 88 in the world to 23, which is outrageous in 6 years. So he's definitely, his stock is quite high at the moment. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Doesn't he live in? Doesn't he? I mean, I might have made this up, but doesn't he?
He lives in Edinburgh.
Scotland?
Yeah, he lives in Edinburgh.
Is that a possibility?
Well, funny you say that, because Scotland have made an official approach for him. So they have actually done that this evening or this afternoon. So I don't know if that's the job for him. I think if he is going to make a move, he'll probably move into club football. It seems like the natural step for Michael O'Neill next. But
it's a step down going up Scotland, surely.
Yes. I wouldn't like to see him. If he is going to move, I'd rather him go into club football and test himself there once again. So
yeah, it's safe to say
no offence. No offence to regular listener Rob Palmer, obviously, but going to Scotland is a big step down.
Yeah.
Of course. Elsewhere in the European section, the Republic of Ireland were thumped by 5-1. Spurs star Christian Eriksen was described as world-class by Martin O'Neill. He bagged a hat-trick on the night, and even Lord Bentner got himself in on the act, scoring Denmark's 5th. I must admit, I expected more from the Republic, given they'd been to Copenhagen and come away with a pretty decent result. Dan, what do you think went wrong?
I think you look at these playoff games, there's so much at stake. Everyone's more worried about defending. And I'd think about getting rid of playoffs now, but that's another story for another time, maybe later. I think they went there with the same defensive mindset. And what breaks down defences is quality players. And a lot of teams in these playoffs didn't have those. Denmark had one. And one goal goes in, 2 goals in, the situation gets worse and worse, you lose belief, and then it falls apart very quickly. And I think it was as simple as that for Ireland. They went there with a clear strategy, the same strategy they used away in Cardiff, which got them into the playoffs in the first place. But there's only so long you can do that, and it doesn't work. I mean, 5-1 was a bit dramatic in the end, but the game was done. The combination of away goals, which is another thing I'd abolish as well. I'd definitely abolish away goals. I think it's outdated. But once you're in that situation where you know you can't win, it's so hard to keep that intensity up. And I think they just fell apart. I think it's simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, it was put to Martin O'Neill in his presser afterwards that his luck had run out, referring to his cautious approach. He said that was simply not true, and you don't win the trophies I've won, both as a player and a manager, because of luck. Look, we've touched on it. His approach was negative. There's no hiding from that. Alavi, can Martin O'Neill still do a job in club football? Should he be looking to get back into it? Could he perhaps be a suitor for the Everton job?
Martin O'Neill, for me, is one of the most underrated managers there are out there now. They're saying that he should have had sort of a plan B. The problem is when you're playing against a team that has, a world-class player, if we're defining him as world-class, but let's just say he is, you can have all the plans in the world you want. They went up, didn't they, because of Shane Duffy's open up. They nearly had a second. So the fact that they're saying his tactics were wrong, I personally don't agree with. I just think they got beaten by the better sides. Does he have a place at management football? I would have him. You probably wouldn't have him at Arsenal, fair enough. But I'd definitely have him if I supported an Everton or a Southampton or a team like that. I think for me, he's been nothing but impressive. We've had a couple of football stars on this pod, Harry, and that played under him. And correct me if I'm wrong, but they've both said that he was a really good manager. So who are we to say anything about that?
Yeah, just going around the group, quick yes or no answer. Martin O'Neill for Everton, yes or no? Andy?
Yes, why not? Yeah.
DeLuca?
Yeah, I'd definitely take him right now if I was Everton.
Alavi, you take him as well?
Are you saying take him or will he go for him?
No, would you take him?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no doubt.
Everyone. Am I the only one that thinks no? Jesus.
Well, who's the alternative?
I don't know. I'd break the bank to get Marco Silva. Do whatever it takes. But anyway, that's a discussion for another day. In the only remaining European World Cup qualification playoff, Croatia cruised through, having done most of their work in the first leg. They went through 4-1 on aggregate. Look, Croatia undoubtedly possessed bags of talent, Modric, Rakitic, Perisic, Mandzukic, and so on. But I've got to say, Greece didn't half make it easy for them. Comical defending, their inability to create chances of their own proved to be the difference at the end of the day. Whilst on the topic of Greece, if you haven't already heard it, you can head over to our website or wherever you get your pods from and listen to my interview with Euro 2004 legend Antonios Nigobolidis, which is on there now. It is in Greek, unfortunately, due to a language barrier, but if Greek is not your language, the English transcript is now available on our website, sofasportsnews.com or the FNX network. Look, England played Germany and Brazil, and they didn't lose to either of them. So we have to mention this. Andy, is it encouraging signs from the young England players, or are we just getting excited over what is frankly a useless friendly?
No, I wouldn't. Friendlies can tell you. Friendlies can definitely tell you a lot. I think everyone maybe feared the worst when, like 5 or 6 senior players pulled out. But I think the youngsters coped themselves. I think, whether you agree with me or not, I don't think Ruben Loftus-Cheek will be a first choice midfielder come the World Cup. I'm not saying he wouldn't be in the squad, but I don't think he'll be a starting midfielder at the World Cup. I think Pickford made a real case for himself. Jordan Pickford handled himself really well. He obviously, I think Gareth Southgate is obviously going for, he wants a more competent ball playing type England. And I think that's why he'd maybe prefer Jordan Pickford over the likes of Joe Hart. Joe Hart, obviously, he can command his area well, he can make good saves and that, but there's a question over his composure on the ball, whereas Pickford maybe has that edge over him. And it's the reason why, I think he spoke openly about this with Chris Smalling, that was the reason why he didn't include him in the squad, is because he can't play with the ball at his feet. And I'm a Manchester United fan, I know he can't play with the ball at his feet. So, so I think that's what they're going for. And I think the fact that I think the most encouraging thing is, regardless of the performances, some of them good, obviously, is that the players that obviously withdrew through injury or who are injured and players coming back do have to look over their shoulder a bit now, which I think we didn't really have, that England didn't really have that before. A lot of places were guaranteed in the 11, so now that they have maybe a bit more competition for places, can only bode well, I think.
Yep. Alavi, what did you make of England's performances over the 2 fixtures?
I actually quite like Southgate. I think he's got the right idea. I think you know what I'm going to say, because the best player against the best 2 teams in the world is the one you've been making fun of me for rating, and that's I thought John Stones in both games was the best player. It, just in my opinion, you know, I think he's an even better defender this season under Pep Guardiola. He sort of represents the hope that they can progress, they can play properly if they want to, and you know, like Andy said, he seems to only want players who can, or at least a good balance of players who can actually play with the ball. I sort of, what Dan was talking about Italy, well, Southgate's actually done the opposite, because he's switched to a formation because he now believes that he's got, I don't know, was it like Walker and Bertrand on either side, and it moves from a 3-5-2 to a 5-3-2. So you have to praise him for that, because he's actually picking the formation with the players he's got, whilst last year he sort of they weren't quite good enough to be there, and he was playing 4-4-2. So you can't just say because it's a friendly it doesn't count. Like Brazil and Germany are ranked as the 2 favourites for this coming World Cup.
Yeah, fair point. I don't think anyone's disputing the quality of their opponents. I just think it's really easy to get carried away with the performances that are ultimately in dead rubber games, unfortunately. Guys, we're going to turn our attention to this weekend. There's one mouth-watering Premier League clash in particular, and it's the North London derby. Dan, you're a Spurs fan. I'm an Arsenal fan. We don't see eye to eye on many things. But one thing I'm sure we can agree on is that it's bloody nerve-wracking the week in the build-up, isn't it?
It is. No recent March or April game has been a lot worse because of the situations we've been in. The November one is horrible to lose, but it's a little bit. There's a little bit more respite. Things have changed for me a lot in the last 5 years in the North London derby. Before it was like we'd lose, and that was the only game we interested in. Now I think if we lose, we can recover from it. But I'm at a place now with Tottenham where on the pitch, if not better. So I look forward to the games a lot more, obviously. And I'd be, if I had to pick a team to win, pick the home side in the North London derby. But I go there, so I expect us to get something.
Okay, so what's your prediction? Stick your neck out on the line.
Hey, I'm going to go for the trusty old 1-1 draw with Tottenham to score first this time. I know last time we didn't score first. Last time we got an equaliser early in the second half. But that's been the last 3 seasons. It's been 1-1 at the Emirates, so that's enough statistics for me.
Yep. Andy, what about yourself? How do you see this one panning out?
Yeah, I think it'll definitely be a draw. I think 1-1 seems like a logical. That'll probably be either the odds on with the bookies, but I'd like to see a few more goals, so I'll say 2-2 maybe.
Okay, Alavi?
I've got, sorry Dan, because I've given him about 10 correct Spurs predictions in a row, but for some weird reason, I think Arsenal are going to win. I can't justify it with any sort of analysis, and because I messed Italy up completely by promising him they'll go through, I think I'm just on a bad week with De Luca, and I think I don't know. I just fancy Arsenal to snatch it, but I hope I'm wrong.
Harry Kane's back though.
Yeah, he is. But I've got
someone coming back for their first game as a striker, it doesn't always work that they sort of just come back and notch a couple of goals and go back into the form that they left.
Unless you're Harry Kane.
It was if you remember last season it was his first game back as well. They rushed him back for the derby, and he did absolutely nothing except score a penalty. All he did was score a penalty, which was fine. But Yeah.
You don't mind that, do you?
No, you don't, I suppose.
They are
If you're a Spurs
favourites with
fan.
the bookies, Arsenal. I know.
They should be, yeah.
They
I
are.
think they'll be.
They are just. Yeah, they are.
My theory is that Alavi, well, it's well known. Anyone that listens to this pod on a regular basis knows that Alavi's got an agenda against Arsenal. There's no doubt about that. It's as clear as day. And what he's doing here is because he got Italy wrong and he knows he's on a bad week, he's now tipped Arsenal to win, hoping that his bad run continues and it actually goes the other way. That's what he's really doing here.
I'd rather a draw. I think I'll take a draw. I mean, I don't have to hear from either of you. Get the weekend off.
I'm on to you, Alavi. Another two sides who meet this weekend, whose struggles have been well documented this season, meet at Goodison Park on Saturday as Everton take on Crystal Palace. Both are in desperate need of the points. Alavi, is this an opportunity for David Unsworth to prove to the club that he's worthy of getting the position full time?
I don't think, if he won at the weekend, then, they're going to turn around and offer him the job. What I was quite amazed at was that Everton are underdogs to win this game. Now, at the start of the season, if I said sort of Palace were 7-5 on favourites and Everton were 2-1 to win the game, with, you could get 8-1 for a 1-0, then you'd be quite amazed. There are some key injuries, though, Harry. Obviously, Patrick Van Aanholt remains out, I think, with a hamstring injury. Lee Chong-Won's still out. Benteke's soon to be back, but I don't think he'll make the game on Saturday. The big one was yesterday, wasn't it? So Loftus-Cheek went off, I think, in the first half or relatively early in the first half, and he could be the difference. He really could. So Everton, Tom Davies is obviously still injured. McCarthy and Barkley probably won't be back in time. And do you know what? I think Unsworth, what he needs to do, if I was him, I would do something really bold. Like I would drop Rooney, right? Even though I rate Rooney, I would drop Rooney and I would play, Besic, Sigurdsson, Nies and Calvert-Lewin as an example, because that's where people turn around and go, oh, look at what his statement he made. He got the win. And he gets people on your side. If you're not a manager, that's a big high-profile name. Sometimes you take these risks. Like Hullet did it with Shearer, and it backfired, and he hadn't had the managerial experience, and therefore he lost his job. But if you don't have a managerial experience and you make a big call and it goes for you, everyone starts to say you're a genius. So it's a risk, but that's what I'd do if I was him.
I mean, it's pretty clear that Everton are looking for a manager because we know they made an approach for Marco Silva, but I'm just interested, in terms of from David Unsworth's point of view, does that demotivate him or does that fire him up more? Does that make him even more determined to prove his worth at the club?
To be honest, I think it's, as much as he can prove it all he wants, I don't think they want to give him the job. I think with the money that Everton have behind them now, they're looking for someone they can invest in, someone that they want to say, oh, here's 200 million for the transfer market. Go do what you can. And I don't think they see Unsworth as much as, because no one can question his passion or his commitment to the football club. He obviously loves it, and he's made it clear he wants the job. But honestly, I think he's just a stopgate for them, just to steady the ship while they find. So they've seen the likes of Marco Silva. I know they've made a formal approach for him, and I think Watford turned it down, didn't they? But they obviously see him as someone who's like a young manager. He's got fresh ideas. That's someone that they want in. So I think they're giving us a clue here as to the type of manager they maybe want to bring in.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's go on to the continent now. Of course, we have the small matter of the Madrid derby, which is also taking place this weekend. Alavi, what can you tell us about this one? Are you going to stick your neck on the line and give us a prediction as well?
Can I do everything but the prediction, and then I'll go around and see what you guys...
Why, so you can then sit on the fence and say 1-1 like you always do?
Yeah. To be fair, it has got 1-1 written all over it. But, just a bit of news on Atletico Madrid. Apparently, Barca have reached an agreement to sign Griezmann. So they're going to pay something like 20 million a year for 5 years. So obviously, it's quite a big. Quite a big salary coming his way if they can secure a deal. Although he has sort of struggled for form, he's only managed to hit the net twice, I think, so far. Pretty isolated in a team that sort of doesn't have Koke or Carrasco out injured. So that's some team news for you coming this week. Well, the title's already out of touch, really, for both of them. Yeah, you know, Atletico Madrid have got Diego Costa and Vitolo probably arriving in January. They don't look like they're going to get out of a Champions League group at best. They can really expect a top three finish in the league. It's the first one in the new stadium, so that'll be prove quite interesting. Currently, they've won 23 points. I think eight points or so behind Barcelona, which, like we said last week, is a huge gap. You know, it might not sound bad here, but there it's absolutely massive. I'm actually unbeaten in the league so far, which is a stat that surprised me. Do you know what? I thought I was a Serie A. I thought I was a La Liga geek, and someone told me it randomly today when we were discussing the game, and I didn't believe them. But they're actually unbeaten. They've just drawn too many games, Harry. So the positives are that the two guys I mentioned, you know, Koke and Yannick Carrasco, could actually come back, but that remains to be seen. Madrid, on the other hand, Gareth Bale, De Luca's old boy, had another injury setback this week, which is a shame, really. Benzema's obviously going through his worst run for a very long time. Ronaldo's goal-scoring touch, not his touch with the ladies, as he's just had another kid, but his goal-scoring touch has evaded him. And, I mean, apart from sort of Isco playing quite well, I don't really have much else. So that's one we're going to probably go for the draw. I'll go for a 1-0 draw. Depends on Marco Asensio, what impact he can make. But you know, they're always sort of quite captivating games. But I think the fact that both sides are currently in the position they are will just sort of make it that more, I don't know, that more enchanting, that more interesting. Because whoever loses is 100% out. They're both more or less out anyway, I'd say. But whoever loses is definitely out.
Yeah, it could be the knockout punch, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Andy, how do you see that one panning out? Give us a quick prediction on that one.
Well, yeah, I think I would agree that whoever wins this will, if there's a winner in this, they're the only ones really that could go on and challenge Barcelona. But I'd actually stick my neck out and think that Real Madrid might sneak a win in this one, because if you are looking at it, Griezmann has been struggling for form. I know Ronaldo maybe has been lacking in front of goal at the moment as well. But I just always think with the creative options Real Madrid have, it could turn around at any game, at any moment. So I'll give them that one. I think if they find a bit of form against Atletico, I'd give them the win in that one.
Yep, fair enough. De Luca, your predictions on Atletico Real, how do you see that one going? Just give us a quick prediction.
Look, you don't play teams like Tottenham every week, and I think Real Madrid will be very buoyed by that. So I think Real Madrid are going to win this. They've got a lot of recent history against Atletico Madrid. 2 legs in the Champions League semi-final last year. I know they're in bad form, but derbies are the time to turn it around. I think Real Madrid will come good this week.
Do you see that, what you just did there? When you said they don't play teams like Tottenham every week. That is why nobody likes Tottenham, De Luca. That is why nobody wants to see Tottenham's success.
Because Arsenal fans are loved around the world, aren't they?
You guys, a couple of decent results against Real Madrid, and all of a sudden, Real Madrid fear Tottenham. I'll give it a rest, for God's sake.
Come on, Harry, what's your prediction? Don't always ask us.
Group of death, Harry. Group of death. Your words.
I actually fancy Atletico to pick up all 3 points. I just think that, like Alavi said, I can't see them losing. They are unbeaten, and that was a fact that I came across today as well, and I was surprised. Not because I didn't believe that Atletico could still be unbeaten, but more so because they've been getting so much negative press this year, and they haven't hit the heights they did maybe 2 seasons ago, but they are difficult to beat. That's something you're always going to see from a Simeone side. So, I don't see them losing. And I think at home, big stadium, big crowd, first derby there, I think that their guys will get behind them, and I fancy them to nick it. I'm going to say 1-0 Atletico. So that's me on that one. In Italy this weekend, we have the Rome derby. Lazio sitting fourth, Roma fifth. Just a point separates the two sides going into this one. Roma won 4-2 away at Fiorentina last week, whereas Lazio, their fixture against Udinese was postponed for heavy rain. I mean, what decade are we living in and games are getting postponed for heavy rain? Obviously, we're awaiting the team news on that one, it is always interesting after an international break to see who comes back with knocks and who's available, who's not available. Elsewhere, Napoli take on Milan. Napoli slipped up at Chievo last time out, allowing Juve to close the gap to just a point. With Milan coming to town and having suffered a couple of draws lately, I think this weekend's game is vital for Napoli. Be really interesting to see how Sarri's side react. I suppose the good thing is that Insigne will be relatively fresh, seeing as he can't get a game.
Well rested, yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, can I let me just get your predictions on firstly Lazio Roma, Andy?
Well, first of all, I've not overly followed Serie A this season. I know that you do, Harry, so you probably know a lot more than I do. But I was just having a look at the league table before, and the top 5 sides are all within 5 points of each other, which is actually quite. It tells you that already how competitive it is this season. That all the top teams are right up there. So
best league in the world.
Actually, I must start getting onto it, because if it's that exciting this early on, then the rest of the season should be really, really good. So yeah, Lazio. I think I'll give Lazio this one, maybe just a sneaky 1-0. I think.
Yep, De Luca.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Lazio are going to win. They're in really, really good battle. Immobile, despite playing 180 minutes, he'll be pretty fresh as well, because he barely moved. Immobile doesn't mean it doesn't mean immobile if you translate it. You would have thought that looking at him. Lazio are just they're in good form. That this is their time to get back in amongst the big boys, and I just think they're going to take advantage at home. Obviously, both teams play in the same stadium, but I fancy Lazio this week. Yeah,
Alavi.
Yeah, Lazio 2-0. I think they drew with probably the top team at the moment in the league, didn't they? A few weeks ago.
Yeah, they did. That's
right.
Yeah.
Then they won against Genoa, but I think the reason I'm tipping them is because at the moment they're a team for me that can play nice football, but they can always put in a workman-like performance like they did against Palermo last time. So I'll go Lazio 2-0.
I'm the only one that's going to go Roma. I fancy Roma to nick it. I really do. I think Roma could, with the way El Shaarawy's playing at the moment, the way Edin Dzeko is looking, another forgotten man, no doubt on form-wise, he's one of Europe's top strikers at the moment. And I think Roma always pose a threat. So I think it'd be foolish to write them off in this one. Just my opinion. But I'm going to go with a narrow Roma victory. Right. Now it's time for a bit of fun. De Luca managed to squeeze his answer in last week just before Alavi revealed it. He got it by the skin of his teeth, but they all count. So this week's quiz is over to you, Dan. If you know the answer, guys, we're going to have a system here now, yeah, because De Luca answered right last time out, but we were too busy blabbing on that we missed it. And I only actually heard his answer when I listened back to the pod the next day. So we're going to create a buzzer system. So if you think you know the answer, you need to make a buzzing sound. Any sound of your choice, and we'll come to you for your chance to answer the question. Now, if you get the answer wrong, we can go on to the next person. So
your system's going to struggle here because it's one of those questions where you're going to be calling out answers. You're going to get it wrong to start with, probably, and keep calling out. But see how you get on.
Well, do you have to wait to the next person? Like, so if I say one and it's wrong, does it then go on to one of you, or can I keep going?
No, if someone else buzzes, they can go. Look, it's buzzer chaos. Let's do it. Come on, it'll be fun.
I've had a lot of protein shakes. So my buzz is My buzz is on form at the moment. Right, got my pen ready. My Sofa Sports News T-shirt. I'm all ready. Let's go.
Right. I knew the answers to this because I'm obviously an international football geek, and it's International Football Week. So here we go. In Italia 90, England.
Oh, hold on a minute. Italia 90. De Luca wasn't even born, for God's sakes.
I forgot. Yeah, Sky Sports, baby. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, neither was I, by the way.
Lies. Are you 39 or something?
Look, I know all three of you support England vividly. In Italian 90, which is... No, I knew the answer.
Hold on.
5.
I've got a pen and all I've bloody written down is Italia 90. Hurry.
That's important. In Italia 90, England's most successful World Cup campaign since 1966. Which club provided the most players to the England squad?
Buzz.
Go on.
Who buzzed?
That's me. Tottenham.
No. Incorrect.
Italia 90.
Buzz.
Go on.
Arsenal.
No. 0 players from Arsenal, I believe.
And have you stopped Googling it? Look, he's typing, for God's sake.
Don't have a bloody...
What are you doing, typing on a piece of paper? How obvious are you, man?
So far, I've got Sheffield Wednesday.
Unbelievable. He's actually typing like this on a piece of paper. Yeah.
Harry, I don't have a computer. Look, this is my phone.
You've been texting me through the show. You obviously got
Through
some
here,
way of communicating.
like this.
Oh, dear me.
Now I've bloody dropped it.
Dear me.
I was going to go Sheffield Wednesday because of Chris Waddle, but...
It's not Sheffield Wednesday.
Buzz.
Oh, well, my Google must have been wrong.
I think Chris Waddle probably played for Marseille at the time as well. I might be wrong about that.
Buzz.
Go on.
Liverpool.
No. Right, I'm going to give you your first clue. Think outside the box. Think outside the box.
Think outside the box. Buzz.
Yep.
West Ham.
No.
Hold on. Is it a team that isn't in England and that's why you said Buzz go outside the box?
Just think outside the box.
What bloody box?
What? It is not a team you'd expect.
Oh, Buzz.
Yeah.
Andy.
Leeds.
No, not Leeds.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask?
Yep.
Is it a team that are currently in the Premier League?
Nope.
Buzz.
Yep.
Nottingham Forest.
No, although they had 2 players, I believe, which was quite high up on the list.
How many players did they have altogether?
Yeah.
4.
4 from one club.
4.
All right, I'm going to give it one more minute, guys. If no one gets in the next minute, DeLuca's revealing the answer because we can't keep going over our schedule because of these quizzes, as good as they are. So we're going to give it another minute.
Was it any of them that No. Can you tell us the positions of the players?
A goalkeeper, 2 defenders, and
Shilton.
Buzz.
Shilton.
Buzz.
Who did fucking Shilton? Oh, excuse me. Who did Shilton play for? Who the hell did Shilton play for? How do we not know between us who bloody Shilton played for?
At the time, Shilton played for Derby County, I believe. I'm not sure about that. You have to check that.
Right, so is it...
it's not Derby County. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said that. Right?
You didn't buzz.
Okay, Alavi has given himself a clue earlier.
Ooh.
Rangers?
Glasgow Rangers is correct.
No. Yes?
Wow.
Glasgow Rangers is the correct
Right.
answer.
Shall I tell you how I got it?
Go on.
You Googled it.
Google, yeah.
Bloody
Did
hell.
you text Rob Palmer?
If you go through the team, you've got Peter Shilton in goal, right?
Yeah.
If you then start going through the defence, you've got Pearce, Stevens, I believe, Des Walker,
Stevens played for Rangers.
Terry Butcher
played for Rangers.
So I thought, that's if 2 of the 4 are Scottish, they've got a therefore 1 in 2 chance of possibly being Rangers. Therefore, Rangers. And I'm accused of bloody Google.
There is no
Unbelievable.
doubt in my mind that you was typing something.
I don't have a computer.
You might have been texting your wife to tell her to run you a bath with bath bombs and bubble bath and all that, whatever it is you like to do. But you were definitely typing something. Right, anyway, Alavi's the winner. All hail King Alavi. Guys, you can follow us on Twitter at SofaSportsNews _. You can check out our Facebook page, Sofa Sports News, the Football Fan Network. And our Facebook group is now linked to that. Something I discovered yesterday, the wonderful world of Facebook now allows you to link a group to a page. So the posts are shared between each other. I want to say a massive thank you to you guys for joining us again. In particular to Andy Wilson, who's taken time out of his busy schedule to join us. Andy, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we hope to have you on again soon.
And congrats to Australia as well for going through. Got a lot of listeners there.
Yeah. Andy, do you want to give everyone your Twitter handle and tell us a little bit about what you're doing nowadays and how people can keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at Andy Wilson Media. So I work on the online sports team for the Daily Express and the Daily Star. So yeah, I usually retweet all the articles I write from my Twitter page. So you'll find all my stuff there.
Brilliant. Fantastic. And hopefully we can have you on again very soon.
Absolutely, yeah. Brilliant.
Good stuff. Guys, if you haven't listened to them yet, make sure you head over to wherever you get your podcast from. Or you can go on the FNX network and hit the Sofa Sports archives. We've got some fantastic shows, some fantastic recent ones with Charlie Wyatt, football editor of The Sun, Sander Westerveld, former Liverpool goalkeeper, and Nico Polidis as well. DeLuca, do you want to give us your Twitter handle?
Yeah, it's at DDL_SSN. If anyone wants to tweet me, advising me which team I should support at the World Cup, I'll take all of those tweets on board. Looking for a team.
He's looking for a team. Alavi, do you want to give us your Twitter handle? Have you got any followers yet? Does anyone?
Well, this sort of proves that I don't have a computer. I don't actually know it. I think it's at
Good job.
Alavi.
Good job.
Alavi _ or is it at Alavi _
Alavi _SSN. That's right. Guys,
just use my imaginary Google.
He typically responds within 31 days.
Yeah. He believe it or not, when he first got Twitter, I had to show him how to tweet.
I actually went round.
He actually came round my house for a Twitter tutorial. Unbelievable.
I was looking for this little bird, and then he was like, "No, the tweet is pressed like a status." Yeah.
Guys, stay tuned for some shows we've got coming up over the next 7 days or so. I'll be talking with the Guardian's German football correspondent and one of the stars of the BT Sport European Football Show, Raphael Honigstein, joins me on Friday for a chat. We'll be talking about his career, and we'll be talking about his new book about Jurgen Klopp, which should be a really interesting read. He's also in the process of writing one about Per Mertesacker, with Per Mertesacker. So we'll be hearing all about that on Friday. Also, next week, we've got a North London Derby review show with Craig and Lee from the Same Old Arsenal podcast. They'll be joining myself, DeLuca, and a Spurs fan who will be revealed later on to debate the North London Derby. One side of the fence will be rather miserable and one will be mocking the other. There's no doubt about that. Guys, just before I let you go, we did have some listener questions today. Unfortunately, we ran slightly over time, so we couldn't get them all in. But there's one that's sparking debate on our group, and it's been sparking debate for quite some time now, ever since Gareth Southgate named his England squad. I just want to get a brief answer from each of you on this one. Alavi, starting with you. Should Jack Wilshere go to the World Cup, providing he is fit? Does he have a place in that squad?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's like what I said about Ibrahimovic. Particularly if you're a country that doesn't necessarily have a load of ball players, then you take the best players, and particularly those that you need in certain positions. So yeah, I will take him. I might not start him, but I'd take him. Yeah.
DeLuca?
I mean, you said providing he's fit.
Yeah.
So then the answer is yes. my definition of fit and your definition of fit is going to be very different. If he plays 90% of the games,
doing a night out with Harry.
A quarter to three, my opinion might change. But if he plays 90% of the games and he's first choice for his club from January to May, then I take him. If he scrambles 3 games together like he normally does, and they take him, I think it'd be a mistake again. If he's fit, then he goes. I think. Yeah.
Andy, what about yourself?
Yeah, I would agree. I think you'd have to take Jack Wilshere if he puts together a good run of games between now and the end of the season. I think when he's injury free, absolutely you would take him, because at the moment you're looking at because it's probably England's weakest spot is the centre of midfield, because they're drafting in the likes of, no disrespect to like Jake Livermore or Jack Cork or players like that, but Jack Wilshere is obviously far better than them. So I think if he's fit, he has to go.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree that he needs to stay fit, but this notion that he needs to be first choice at Arsenal gets on my nerves so much, because, for example, like the likes of Livermore are getting in the squad. Cork, like you said, Loftus-Cheek was in there. These players are only first choice at their clubs because they're playing for weak clubs. Yeah. Surely a Jack Wilshere, who is playing for Arsenal in the Europa League and in the Cups, is still a higher level of player than someone who's...
You're taking that too personally. Livermore won't start at a World Cup.
No. It's just an example. It's just an example, because what my problem is with Gareth Southgate coming out and saying, well, if he's not first choice for Arsenal, how can he be first choice for England? Well, there are players in that England squad that are playing for weaker clubs, and hence why they're in there. So it's a bit, you can't judge it like that.
I think position comes into it, though, doesn't it? Like, position comes into it. I think it's different when you're talking about a centre-back.
Position does come into it, Alavi, but I think there's far more pressure playing at Arsenal than there is at most clubs.
No. What I mean is position in terms of, if England lack a certain type of player, then that means that even if he's not necessarily playing week in, week out, then he gets the go-ahead. Whereas a centre-back, in my opinion, is a bit of a different argument. If a centre-back, I'd want my centre-backs to be playing most weeks.
Fair enough. I just think it's ludicrous that their best ball-playing midfielder could be left out.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Their best playing midfielder.
Yeah. I think what the point, like a good example there is like Ruben Loftus-Cheek, obviously, who did get selected. Whereas if he was still at Chelsea this season, there's not a chance they would have looked at him. So
yeah,
know.
Goes to show, doesn't it? Right, guys, thank you so much. And from myself and the rest of the Sofa Sports News team this week, au revoir.